The night was unusually quiet. Outside, the late fall wind whispered through the trees like it was trying not to wake anyone. Inside my apartment, the only sound was the soft tap of my fingers on the keyboard, working through case notes with a mug of cold tea beside me. Then came the knock, soft, hesitant, but urgent. I froze. Not many people knock at 2 a.m. Not unless something's gone terribly wrong. I opened the door. Claire stood there. Her hair was matted to her face, her lips bloodied. One eye was swollen shut. Barefoot. Trembling. She looked like she had clawed her way out of hell. Then she collapsed into my arms. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just held her, felt her bones shaking under her skin as I wrapped her in the nearest blanket and guided her to the couch. When I lifted the hem of her sweatshirt, I saw them, deep, purple welts like someone had used a belt with intent. Finger-shaped bruises like his hands were still imprinted on her. What did he do to you? I whispered, my voice breaking before hers did. She didn't answer. She just wept. Have you ever opened a door, only to realize your whole life was about to change? She sat there, wrapped in that blanket like it was armor, staring into the corner of the room like it had answers. Her voice came out in fragments. He took my phone. I haven't talked to anyone in weeks. I sat on the floor across from her, unable to stop myself from clenching my fists. He says I don't need money. That I don't need friends. I made the mistake of questioning him. Once. In front of his friends. What happened? I asked, afraid of the answer. He locked me in the basement. No lights. No food. For 3 days. Said it was time to reflect on obedience. I swallowed hard. My skin crawled. My sister, locked up like a prisoner. I called the police. Once. Twice. Nothing. Case dismissed. Brandon knows people, Ilera. A judge. 2 officers. He told me even if I screamed, no one would listen. She looked up at me. And he was right. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from watching someone you love shatter, piece by piece, and knowing you weren't there to stop it. She said it softly, so soft I almost didn't catch it. I was pregnant. I looked up. He made me get rid of it. Said I wasn't worthy of raising a child. My breath left my body like I'd been punched. He said being his wife that was already more than I deserved. My heart fractured. I didn't know whether to scream or hold her tighter. Then she reached down and tugged at her shoe. Hidden in the lining was a torn page, folded twice, nearly crumbled from wear. I wrote this. That day. When he locked me up. It was her handwriting. A journal entry. Desperate, raw, terrifying. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I think he wants me to break. He said silence is cleansing. The dark makes you obedient. My hands trembled. But I wasn't afraid. This wasn't just pain. It was evidence. If no one else believes you, I said, looking her straight in the eyes, I do. And I'm not staying silent. Would you protect someone if it meant becoming the thing you feared most? I didn't sleep. I sat by her side as she dozed off on the couch, twitching from dreams she didn't deserve to have. Every now and then, she'd flinch, like a phantom hand had reached into her sleep. The memories came back in waves. Family dinners where she smiled too tight. Moments when she wouldn't meet my eyes. When our mother dismissed my concern with, "Claire just needs to adjust to married life." I had believed them. I had let it go. But now I saw the whole picture. This wasn't new. This was years of silence, manipulation, and buried bruises. As the morning light began to stretch across the floorboards, I knew what I had to do. Claire was barely holding on. She needed time to heal. But that monster still walked free, still smiled for cameras, still shook hands in town like a man of integrity. I would be her shadow. I would step into her world and rip it apart from the inside. I looked at her sleeping and whispered, "You're safe now." But what I meant was, I'm going in. And I'm not coming out until I break him. Sometimes the strongest people aren't the ones who fight loudest, they're the ones who decide, quietly, that enough is enough. I stood in front of the mirror, pulling Claire's cardigan tight around me. Her scent lingered in the fabric, lavender and fear. I studied every movement I made, every tilt of my head, every way my mouth curled when I tried to speak like her. It wasn't acting. It was survival. Claire's scribbled notes were spread across my bed. Post-its stuck to my lamp with reminders, "Call him Brandon," "Always set the table before 7, no eye contact longer than 3 seconds. She had lived like this for years, walking a minefield with no map. I had 2 days to become her. My hair was pinned the way she wore it, pulled back, tight and obedient. Her wedding band felt cold on my finger. The smart home app was still active on her burner phone, which I had synced to track every lock, every light, every camera. This wasn't just theater. It was war. Outside, the family's assistant waited in the black SUV. Claire watched from the upstairs window of my apartment, her arms wrapped around her chest like she was holding herself together. I gave her a small nod before turning away. Some women inherit heirlooms. I inherited fear. And the choice to end it. Would you step into someone's life? If it meant saving them from losing it? The front door clicked open without a creak. Too perfect. Too staged. The air inside was lemon clean and cold, like the house had no soul, just expectations. Brandon wasn't home. Just a blinking red light above the hallway camera. I smiled weakly at the lens, remembering Claire's instructions, never walk too fast, always close the door gently, slippers by the stairs, not the hall. The silence was the loudest thing in the house. I moved like I was underwater. In the guest room, I found it, something out of place behind the vent. A red blinking device no bigger than a flash drive. Surveillance. In the bathroom, I looked up and nearly gasped. Embedded in the light fixture, a pinhole camera. I turned the faucet on high and faked a coughing fit. "Get it together," I whispered, voice trembling just enough to pass for Claire. I caught my reflection, eyes that weren't mine, but hers. I opened her makeup drawer, slid a hidden cam into the base beneath her compact. If he was watching me, I'd be watching him. Have you ever felt eyes on you? Even when you were alone? That night, a gentle knock came at the bedroom door. It was Nora, the housekeeper. Gray hair pinned neatly, eyes sharp like a hawk who'd seen everything but said nothing. She stepped inside with folded towels, but her gaze lingered on me too long. "You feeling better, Miss Claire?" I nodded, forcing a small smile. "Of course." "You remember what today is?" she asked. My heart stalled. "I do," I said, pretending to check my watch. "It's Thursday." "You always change the linens on Thursdays." She stared another beat, then nodded slowly. "Right." She left, but I could feel her suspicion in the air. Later, I heard her whispering on the phone just outside the kitchen. "She's different. Calmer. Like she's planning something." I didn't know if she was a threat or someone quietly cheering me on. Either way, I scribbled one line in Claire's old notebook under the covers: "Find out what Nora knows. Tomorrow, unlock the floor panel." If someone seemed to see through your mask, would you trust them or fear them? Morning light filtered through the blinds like bars across a cell. Brandon had already left for work, predictable, punctual. The perfect monster in a tailored suit. I peeled back the corner of the bedroom rug. Beneath, a loose panel gave way to reveal a hollow space. My fingers brushed cold tin. A rusted box. Inside, I found something far older than Claire's trauma. A journal. The ink was faded, but the words screamed. Dated nearly 10 years ago. Another woman. Same house. Same pattern. February 12th, he took my phone. Said I was ungrateful. Said I needed correction. March 3rd, I asked for a friend to visit. He said friends were poison. I haven't seen anyone in weeks. A correction room. My stomach turned. Claire hadn't been the first. I copied pages, scanned them into the burner phone, and slid the journal under the mattress. This wasn't just abuse, it was a pattern. A system. My phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "Are you safe?" I typed, "For now." Some stories never make the news. But if you lived it, you never forget the ending. I had found a ghost in the floorboards. But the real monster was still upstairs. Pretending everything was fine. Brandon noticed first in my eyes. It was subtle, the shift, the way I stopped flinching when he raised his voice, the calm in how I returned his stare, no longer playing the submissive role with trembling hands. At dinner, he leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "Remember our trip to St. Augustine?" he asked. "The lighthouse tour?" I nodded, expression blank. "Of course. You got sunburned and blamed the seafood." He smirked. "Good memory." He left mid-meal, saying he forgot a call. But I knew better. Behind the wall of polite domesticity, he was reviewing footage, studying my smile, comparing it to the woman he broke. I could almost hear his mind ticking. So I fed the performance. One too long pause before answering. One misstep in the morning routine. The tiniest cracks, just enough to lure him closer. Sometimes the best way to win is to let the enemy think they're winning. What would give you away first, your eyes, or your silence? The next day, I met Ethan Mercer under the guise of returning an Amazon package. Inside, neatly folded between layers of packing foam, were Claire's journal pages, audio files, timestamps, and photos of hidden surveillance. Brandon watched from a distance, or so he thought. I knew the camera angle at the front gate couldn't capture Ethan's face. I had studied the blind spots. Later that evening, Brandon summoned me to his office, all mahogany and fake warmth. He handed me a porcelain cup of tea, just like Claire described. The scent was familiar. Chamomile. Laced. He turned away to check the thermostat. I switched the cups. He took 2 sips before I pressed record. His eyelids fluttered. She thought she could run, he mumbled. Ungrateful rebellion. All she had to do was obey. I was fixing her. I nodded softly. Tell me more. He rambled, slurred. Women need correction. Too much thinking makes them wild. 37 minutes. I got it all. Then he jolted up, hand slamming a red button beneath the desk. Alarms wailed. Doors locked. Panic mode engaged. In a room with one exit and a monster half awake, what's your next move? I bolted down the hall, using the map Claire had drawn from memory. Left at the second alcove, down the narrow stair behind the bookcase, the one Brandon thought no one remembered. In the dark server room, I uploaded the files to a secure cloud. Hit send. Then flipped the main breaker. The entire house went black. Somewhere upstairs, Brandon stirred. Groaning. I could hear him stumbling into furniture, calling for Nora. She never came. When the lights blinked back to life, I was standing at the foyer. No trembling hands. No mask. Just me. You hurt the wrong sister. Would you rather fight a man with fists or with the truth? The sirens arrived before he could reload. 2 officers stepped into the house, clearing corners. Behind them came Claire, her shoulders squared, her jaw set with quiet fury. Brandon froze. What is this? He sneered. You brought her here? That's not even. I tapped play. His voice, thick with sedative, echoed through the foyer. Reprogrammed correction. No one listens to broken girls. The lie broke apart like cheap glass. But he wasn't finished. In one last lunge, Brandon pulled a blade from his sleeve and darted toward Claire. He didn't make it far. The officers tackled him hard. The knife clattered to the floor. Straining against cuffs, he hissed, You think this ends with me? I built more than a prison. I built believers. Claire didn't flinch. She took my hand and whispered, It's finally over. What if your fight for freedom exposes something bigger than yourself?